Now normally I end with my videos with my conclusion, but this time I'm going to start with my conclusion because the Astro A40 digital to analog converter and headset combo is the worst that I have ever listened to in my entire life. And here's why. So let's start up. This is the Astro A40 with Mixamp, or the digital to analog converter and analog to digital converter combined in one. This is just a combo package. Now normally I applaud such packages because it, well, normally gives you the best deal. But this time it's not. It's the sound quality that's rubbish. It's the Rightmark audio analyzer that's rubbish. It's the software interface or the driver interface that's rubbish. And it's just overall rubbish. And I just cannot understand why something so expensive is applauded by all my fellow reviewers so much. I just cannot understand why, because the sound quality, in my opinion, just to give you a tiny hint, is so bad. It's like having those tin cans with the string attached to your friend to your ear and shouting at each other. I mean, it's so poor quality. I'm just baffled by it. Now Astro seems to be fully aware that their, well, product isn't that good enough because it has a, well, leaflet inside that says, "Stop, do not return your gear to the store." But before we get any more baffled by this, just let's take a step back and look at this a bit more objectively. First up, I have to applaud the way it looks. I mean, the A40 does look really cool with the metal pipes at the side. It really does look sturdy. There is some comfort on your head, but the ear cups are just a bit too tiny for my ears. Maybe my ears are too large, but still it will just sit on your ear and not over your ear. And after some time it will start to hurt your ears, which isn't that nice. Now, the Microsoft Boom isn't always working correctly. I mean, you can put it in front of your mouth, but in my opinion, is just so worn down or doesn't work that at the end of an hour of gaming, the headset or the microphone will just be dangling down here. Now, sadly, I just couldn't get the microphone to work. Now, maybe it's because I got mine second hand, but I got myself a brand new one from Astro themselves, and that one didn't work either, so it must be something in the software, the analog to digital converter or whatever. I just couldn't get the microphone to work, so sorry, I just cannot let you hear what the microphone sounds like. Now the headset itself has two 40mm drivers, one for each ear. They are supposed to be rated at 20 Hz to 20 kHz, but I just don't have the setup to verify this. It supposedly has an impedance of 48 ohms, which is sort of weird. Headsets normally tend to have either 32 ohms or 75 or 150, 250, up to 600 ohms. But hey, this shouldn't be an issue, right? So what does this headset sound like? Now, let's just start with the beginning. This headset just sounded horrible. I just started off with the Astro Mixamp Pro, but that just didn't do any good. I mean, the trebles were way too high and very sharp. The middles were way overpowered and the basses, well, absolutely lacking. Now, I was thinking maybe it's the Mixamp Pro, so I switched over to the Burson Audio. The Playmate 2, which is the absolute definition of the best analog to digital and digital to analog converter out there. But that didn't make any difference. The soundstage, however, was wider and better defined than it was with the Mixamp, because with the Mixamp it's just a spaghetti or diarrhea of sound being spat at you. Sorry for the nasty comparison. But still, the sound quality just wasn't good. I mean, in any way, shape or form, it was just horrible. I just couldn't find anything right. Now, the reason, in my opinion, that the middles and the highs were sharp and overpowered is that most gamers think they like to have those kind of sounds because, well, during a tournament, hence the TR on the box, you want to hear those footsteps, and those footsteps aren't normally basses. They are in the middles and in the highs. Basses are just a distraction, so you want to eliminate those. But I'm not a tournament gamer, and I'm betting that most of you aren't as well. I just want my bass to be there. I want those loud explosions. I want it to be like explosive and everything. Now I know what most people are going to say now, you still have the equalizer so you can pump up the bass and everything. No, a headset should sound out of the box straight the best it could be. It has to sound neutral and everything optimal from the get-go. And this is what the driver interface looks like. I mean, those of you who've already spotted it, it's completely in Dutch, despite my system being completely in English. I just cannot understand why it is in Dutch. But Dutch isn't that hard. By the way, you cannot change the language settings in the driver interface itself. So let's take a closer look at the driver interface. Now first up, it's the equalizer presets. Now Astro was kind enough to provide a couple of standard presets. The first up is the Astro, the balanced, neutral bass, and of course tournament. Now over here you can assign it to a button on the Mixamp Pro. If you're feeling, well, really cool, you can always go over to the advanced settings where you can change them yourself. Over here you have the microphone settings where you can change to streaming, night, or home. If you're into the kind of stuff, tournament, you can also set the stream port where you can change the volumes for the game, chat audio, microphone, or auxiliary. And this is the standard mode, which is the mode where it will start up with. Now it's set in PC mode, but you also can change it to PlayStation 4 mode. Now something that is kind of cool that I wanted to show you is the preset library, or bibliotheek as you say in Dutch, that you can change on the device itself, which means that you do not need to have the driver installed in order to get the device working. It will synchronize your audio presets to the device itself, like so. Now it's set to tournament, and as you can see on the device here, so in the bottom left corner it's set to tournament. But let's say if you want to have natural bass, it changes to natural bass, and I can synchronize it to the device. And now it's synchronized. And what is also cool is that you can change all the other buttons over here. Let's say balanced. And you will also see the light on the Mixamp Pro changing. So what about the Mixamp Pro? Well, again, the build quality is really good. I mean, it's rather heavy and it has some rubber padding on the bottom, so it will wobble about on your desk when you're changing the volume. There are some other buttons on there, again for the equalizer, and one for the Dolby Logic, but I'll get back to that a bit later on. There's also a smaller button where you can change either the volume of your friends or the in-game or sound or the in-game music or whatever you want. Still, the build quality was rather good. So what's inside this little Mixamp Pro? Let's take a closer look. Now, one of the main drawbacks of this digital to analog converter and analog to digital converter is the fact that it cannot go past 16 bits and 48 kHz. Well, that's like going back to the 90s. This has a serious impact on the overall sound quality. When trying to figure out why this is, well, I had to open up the digital to analog converter, and this is what I found. First up, it's a FUSB 2805, which is a USB 2.0 high-speed OTG or on-the-go transceiver with an ULPI interface. This basically means that there is a chip that facilitates the daisy chain, so you can connect several of the Mixamp Pro to reduce latency when using voice chat. There's a tiny little chip on there that controls the lights of the digital to analog converter, the LP55231, which is a 9-channel RGB white LED driver. There's a Cirrus Logic 4822CN, and this is a 24 bits 192 kHz asynchronous sample rate converter with an integrated digital audio interface receiver. Now, this little chip converts the audio to a sampling rate which the DSP can process. This is, according to me, one of the reasons why it performs so badly. You can input really good sound quality, 24 bits 192 kHz, but it has to be downgraded in order to be processed. Now, this DSP is a whopper of a chip, the STM32F446, which is a 30-bit ARM Cortex M4 chip with a floating point unit. This is the heart of the device and functions as the DSP, or the digital signal processor. There is a WM8998E stereo codec for portable audio applications. Now, this little chip is the actual digital to analog converter and is responsible for converting the audio from its digital signal to analog. According to the datasheet, it's possible of reaching 96 kHz. Also interesting is that the datasheet mentions that it can only handle 16 ohm headphones. So there's a bit of an issue there because the headset is 48 ohms. To solve this issue of a low impedance, there's an LVDS051, a high-speed differential line receiver to boost the power the device can deliver. Interestingly, the line driver is designed for wireless and telecom infrastructure or printers. Now overall, the components just don't feel logical. It should be capable of much more, but it's being held back in capabilities. The components used aren't high-end components, and the emphasis is more on the low capabilities of the ARM chip and interconnectability. So, what effect does this have on the Rightmark audio analyzer scores? Now, I did two tests, one with the regular or neutral bass setting and one with the Pro Logic enabled, and these are the results. The vanilla results are average, with a single good in a frequency response. The rest are poors, averages, and even a very poor for the stereo crosstalk, meaning that the sound is sort of almost mono. Not a kind of score to be proud of or a statement of excellent sound. Now, if you enable Pro Logic, prepare to be horrified, because this is what the frequency response looks like. I mean, well, if you think that Pro Logic sounds great with an A40, you should probably see a doctor, or you just don't know what quality audio sounds like. Okay, well, so you know my conclusion, and now you also know the reasons why. First up, it's the audio quality of the headset itself, which is just horrible. The microphone just didn't work. Don't know why, but it just didn't work. The digital to analog converter, the Mixamp Pro, it was just horrible. The driver interface was kind of cool, but if that's all. The results from Rightmark audio analyzer, well, the neutral bass one was kind of, well, average, okay-ish. But the one with the Pro Logic, well, that one was just horrible. So overall, I just cannot recommend you getting this headset. If you're looking for a tournament-grade headset, the digital to analog converter, you should definitely check out the Sennheiser GSX 1200. That one also has daisy chaining. If you don't want to have daisy chaining, you can always get the GSX 1000, which I have back here. That one doesn't have daisy chaining, but is hardware-wise identical to the 1200. If you're looking for a good headset with just a good, well, combo, well, check out something SteelSeries has, because, well, those are a lot better. So thank you again for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I'd like to see you in the next one. See you then, bye-bye!